Hour.
No. I'm your host, Kyle, and as usual, I'm joined by the host of More Sports, Devin Moore. Why, Devin, do you look like you're sinking into your chair?
Because I am. I'm
Okay.
in my chair. Allow yourself to sink.
Yep. It's one of those meditation videos now. I am
Alpha waves.
You got like the spa music in the background.
Oh, you know
Devin,
I'll do
can you add that in editing?
I can. You can just look up a generic like spa
Just
when I go into
alpha
edit.
waves is what you want.
Yep.
Because
Great,
the meditation skit that I did in the intro of the Damage album, I just snagged some alpha waves off of YouTube.
Okay.
Start
Okay.
to breathe
And
feel.
we are joined by, would you like to introduce yourself?
This fucking Damage, bitch. It's me.
Yep.
Yeah, that's it. I'm an alternative hip hop artist from New Orleans, Louisiana. I live in Los Angeles, California right now. I'm a rapper. I'm a yapper. I'm a proud trans woman, and I'm here to shake some shit up and eat the rich.
I don't think they'll taste good though.
They will not. It's not a labor of love.
Yeah. It's more of a statement at that point.
It's more of a figure of speech. But yeah.
But yeah.
Devin, are you ready?
Yep. I got the first question. So
Yeah,
Damage.
you do.
Yeah, I do. Kyle, you're always the first one. You alternate, don't you? You know what?
I do
Let me tell
actually.
you-
I do actually alternate it.
Is like, what is something that you nerd out about besides your music?
Something that I nerd out about besides my music. I would say right now, because it's part of my day job, Windows and Buddhism. Those are two things that I nerd out about.
I was once chased by Buddhist monks.
Yeah.
Oh God, the convention.
They'll get you.
Oh.
They'll get you. No, my day job is I work for a window manufacturer and I sell windows. And there's a lot of like technical stuff, but like I've learned a lot about, as somebody who's very like environmentally focused in like how, like what is like our actual structural solution, because like recycling and going vegan is not going to fucking fix everything. The largest energy consumers, like the largest entities that consume energy, are buildings of all sorts, from houses to office buildings to everything. The reason they consume so much energy is it's a function of input and output. So how efficient a building is comes down to how much energy is actually being contained. You can think of it like a Yeti cup versus a glass. And windows are like, and doors, but more importantly, windows are like the key to sealing. I mean, because like all of your Division 8 trades are openings, so it's how energy gets out. Because all you do is it takes energy to pump into it, AC, pump electricity, all this sort of shit. How do you keep everything in? And it's been interesting because like while I'm like, oh, I want to quit my day job, I actually for once in my life have a day job that's like kind of interesting. Conceptually, and I've learned a fucking lot. And like now, every time I walk into a building, I'm like looking at windows. I'm like,
I know a lot of useless information about keys and locks. I don't know why. So I understand that.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's useless and useful. It just depends on the situation. Because I mean, look, if we got to pick a lock, I'm asking you.
I used to do that to mess with people. I used to like take locks and like break into my friends' rooms, and I'm like, "Hey, I'm just here to clean your dishes. Why are you doing my dishes? How'd you get in? Oh, the door."
Well, I was just thinking of fucking Charlie Day. He was just like breaking into the waitress's apartment.
Yeah. Oh God, from Always
I
Sunny in
make sure there's no
Philadelphia.
poison in your shampoo. I make sure.
I used to get like stressed, so I was stress clean, and I'd be like, well, my room's clean. My friend's down the hall. I know how to pick a lock, and so I would break in, and they'd be like taking a nap, and they'd wake up, and I'd just be there. I'm like, hey there, I did your dishes. Why? How? How did you get in? I was like, oh, I picked the lock. Okay, did you stop doing the dishes? I'm almost done.
Wouldn't you want
You,
to stop picking the lock? I'd say finish the dishes, but bro,
you-
stop picking my fucking lock. Have you watched what's his face? The dude who like the lockpick lawyer or something, whatever, on YouTube. The dude who like takes every brand, like everything any
yes.
commercial lock you can fucking buy, and he's like, oh, this is how you break into it. I'm like, are you
hmm
fucking kidding me, dude?
Yeah, I know exactly who you're talking about.
It's so funny.
Now he's like, and you could just hit it with a rock or another lock.
What's happening?
All right, so we've noticed with your music, you've had a note of R&B, rap, metal, jazz, pop. Is there any genre that you want to experiment with that you haven't done yet?
Fuck genre.
Really? So you're one of them. That's what I figured. Just listening to your music, so are you one of those artists where you're like, I don't need a label. My music is my music.
My music is my music. Now, obviously, I am predominantly a hip hop artist. Hip hop is the greatest genre of music in the world. One of the reasons for that is it can fuse with everything because
Okay.
it was built on making something. Because, I mean, it was built off of brown and black people in Harlem with no access to instruments or any access to classical training or any of those things, but they did have access to records, and they took any genre of fucking music they wanted to, and they scratched it up, they chopped it up, they did whatever they want with it, and then they spoke truth to power, and that is still very much alive today. Uh, just because it's become the biggest genre in the world and there's very recognizable, subsects of it and all that shit, it is always open for experimentation and there's always something new you can do with any genre of music. But hip hop is undoubtedly, in my opinion, the greatest genre to ever exist. Partly because it is the most expressive and it is the most
You're
malleable,
welcome.
and the only real rule is authenticity. And the
Okay.
biggest red flag in people with hip hop is when we can tell that there's nothing really authentic happening. And this is like a big thing with like white rappers, is this chip on your shoulder that like I've experienced in the past when I was first kind of like learning how to, be myself, and I'm still learning that. But there's a lot of rappers in general can approach it and be like, okay, this is the rules, this is what I have to talk about, this is what I have to be, this is how I have to represent myself. And when you don't grow up in that and you're not talking about your life experience, then everybody can fucking tell. Everybody can fucking tell. Like, it's so fucking easy, which is why, I really appreciate suburban rap. Like, it has its place in the genre. It is not the defining aspect of it, but it's its own thing. And, it should be, celebrated a little bit more amongst its core audience, as opposed to, the fetishization of the black struggle by privileged white kids, because that's its own problem. But like ultimately speaking, like the red flag with hip hop is when you're not talking about your shit and you're not being yourself. That's when it just comes off as weird, and anybody who really knows can tell right off the bat. And so because of that, that is the only real rule. Otherwise, like you could literally do whatever the fuck you want, because that's how the genre was incepted, is make something out of nothing. So to kind of roundabout to your question, like there is no I have no rule on like what I will and won't experiment with. Um, it just has to stick to that authenticity, and I have to make sure that I continue to check myself as I write and as I create, and being like, okay, what am I saying? Not just what am I saying, but how is it coming across? Because I know what the fuck I intend, but tone checks and being able to like talk to other people and be like, hey, this is my idea, this is how I'm working with it. Is this coming across weird? Is this, the right way to phrase that? And not, during the writing process, you don't want to be like doing all that shit. But once you have like a finished product and you're like, hey, this is the idea, you want to make sure you check it around and be like, hey, is this, when you're trying to make these big ideas, these large claims, and you're not just like rapping, making some fun shit, which is what I've kind of moved away from, is just making fun music. Because if you notice, like in my earlier stuff, the big question and topic that I kept kind of exploring was like, what the fuck am, like, who am I and what am I supposed to be making music about? Because it's undoubted, it's like there's no doubt in my mind that I have to make music. The question is like, about what and for and to serve what purpose. And that's been the big exploration. And and if you've noticed, like a much more cohesive sound coming, not just sound but also message coming from my music, especially as of like most of 2023 and definitely this year, and you'll hear it on the Eat the Rich EP, is community organizing and sobriety and plugging in to life, not checking out, and encouraging and inspiring people to get active as fuck. Because otherwise, the reason we're at where we're at is not any individual person's fault, but it is our responsibility to get out of. And it requires action, and it requires confrontation, and it requires sacrifice and hard work. And me exploring my relationship with my avoidance of those things is what I hope to inspire people to come to their own conclusion of what they need to do. Because otherwise, I'm just another preachy rapper telling people what to do. Preaching from, whether it's an ivory tower or it's a big soapbox. People need to, the reason there are many people who told me to get sober. There are many, like my dad for years was like, you have a fucking problem. You smoke way too much. You're so capable and you're just checked out all the time. And it wasn't until I decided that I wanted to be sober, and I stopped judging myself, and I came at it from a place of love and not like, I have to do this because I'm trying to subscribe to some third-party moral doctrine. Really just doing it for me and being able to refocus my music to help lead those people to water, and remind them that it's up to you if you want to drink it. And this is what can happen if you do. But I can't make that decision for you, and I won't tell you what to do. But I will brag about how cool it is to be on the other side of it. And maybe that'll influence you. And that's kind of like, there was remnants of that in Double Take. Like the original Double Take. Like there was like, that's kind of like the core feeling that a lot of people experienced when they reached out, and they're like, I've never seen someone brag about being non-binary or visibly trans. I've never in my life seen a song about someone just bragging about it. It's always been like a please accept me, or it's, been whatever. And that was like kind of the core aspect of it. Now it was laden with a lot of, I don't want to say I have regrets about that song because I'm just always growing, but I was like 2 years into making music when I made that. Like, period, 2 years. I started releasing music so fucking early.
I don't think that's a problem. I
don't think it's a problem either. That's why I'm not taking anything down. I want everybody to see it. Like, if you go scroll through my Instagram page, people are like, oh, you're industry plant. Scroll to the bottom of my Instagram page and look at 12 fucking posts that have 60 likes to this day.
I mean, people change and grow. What was that talk show host that like touched a bunch of people inappropriate, and people will be like, yeah, it was bad what you did. And he's like, yeah, it is. and he's changed, and he's worked. I don't know if he's worked direct to write it, but he's like, yeah, what I used to do, I shouldn't have done that. And he's grown and changed as a person.
Yeah.
As you grow and change, your ideas do too.
Yeah, and that's kind of, when it comes to like dealing harm to other people, that's its own monster, because it comes down to like, well, do you, like the concept of like cancel culture, where they're like, oh, you're destroying people's lives. I'm like, well, you just don't get to be famous anymore. Maybe you have to fall, like that's something that you fork over. But then there's also this, back and forth of like, are we, it's different when you're actually like causing harm and trauma to people, like when you're touching people inappropriately and stuff. But when, you are revealed to be like a jerk, if like your ex comes out as like, oh, this person was a jerk to me, and they're like, people just decide that they don't really like you anymore, is it truly a reflection of that person's art and your relationship with that art? And are we really holding these people? And this is where I think things get interesting. I feel like in many ways, we as the working class, for lack of a better term, hold the celebrity class to a higher moral standard, because it's almost like, how dare you not have a real job when I have to? How dare you make millions of dollars singing songs when I have to fucking clean toilets? Or I have to type accounting numbers into a spreadsheet and I want to kill myself. How fucking dare you not be an upstanding person? And I feel that a lot of that hunger and that bloodlust that we have as a populace is rooted in that pain of how deprived we are of the things we need to survive and even begin to start like thriving emotionally. So it's like, is it bad to not be perfect? Are we actually holding human beings to a state of perfectionism because we actually believe it's the right way to be? Or are we so fed up with our day-to-day existence that we take it out on people we feel are getting an easy slice of life relative to the harder work for a far less take home? Is it really just that projected frustration, and we should be looking to build a new society instead of necessarily deplatforming little celebrities here and there? Now, that being said, again, when you're actually dealing harm and shit, yeah, Weinstein should be in fucking jail. His company should be dismantled. The money should be going to the victims, 100%. Same for Cosby, same for Diddy, all of that shit. That's legitimate systemic stuff. Same thing with Dan Schneider, all of that shit. And it should be publicly broadcasted and publicly shamed, and that motherfucker's life is over because he robbed children of their right to a trauma-free life, or their chance at a trauma-free life. But it has in many ways also spiraled down to like, these weird little moments where, like, Daniel Caesar said some shit where he was trying to kind of keep the peace against some white boy that was being a little edgy, as far as I can remember. And then since then, like, just, Twitter took it a little crazy, and maybe I'm, misconstruing the situation, but like Twitter took it a little crazy, and he has never recovered from it because of that situation. And it's not like from what I remember, all he really said is like, hey, like, maybe this isn't what we should be focused on as a people. And, he never grew at the same trajectory that he was having when Freudian came out in 2017. And to this day, like, did y'all know he dropped an album, I think,
I did not.
late last year?
Mm-hmm.
Did not.
I did not.
Exactly. And he was like, I mean, in 2017, he was like the fucking rage. And Case Study came out after Freudian in 2019, and it was, in my opinion, a better, like, I liked it a lot better. But like that's an example of like, you know, the mild stuff, like when we hold people to moral, you know, up yours woke moralists. Like I hate how so close to the point Jordan Peterson can be, because he is so intelligent, but he's also so affected and corrupted by the same things that like we're talking about when it comes to toxic masculinity and adherence to the patriarchy and appeal to authority and you know, the capitalist structure. Almost every recording session, I fuck with whatever engineer is like, hey, let's just get some levels. I'm like, check 1 2, we're checking the mic. And have you ever driven a steel-plated Ford F-150? Of course you haven't. You're stuck in that fucking faggy Prius. And bro, just like, I always hear something out the booth that is like, ah. And I'm like, I'm sorry. What I meant to say was,
Fuck.
I love it. I love it. Talk to any trans femme. They all do a voice. They're all voice. Somehow we're all voice actors. I don't get it.
I mean, voice training is a big thing because you got to train your larynx.
Yeah, I mean, that's another thing. Like, I'm really not into voice training. It's just not for me. I mean, like, I say, like, trans woman to, like it's kind of like my headline for people. But, like, you know, the real shit, I am trans femme non-binary, which is, like, a kind of vague thing to define. But I am a predominantly femme-presenting person that doesn't identify with any particular gender. I do say trans woman and woman to people just because it's easy. And it causes the least friction, and because it doesn't matter nearly as much, I don't want to say because it doesn't matter as much to me as it does to other people, but it kind of does. Like, it's easier for, like, my dad, for example, for me to just be like, Dad, I am a woman. And I, like, started, like, when I first started coming out, being like, hey, like, this, and he's like, what the fuck are you talking about? And because it was even, you know, it's still a lot for him to, like, kind of come around to the idea of, you know, the son he raised actually being a woman, and me unpacking a lot of my issues with him, relative to my unknown frustration of being raised the wrong way, and my resentment towards my sister. All of that kind of rooted in what I felt like I was robbed of, to nobody's fault. And that's what is really interesting. Like in my song Vault, there's that line towards the end, I open the vault, we responsible for what's not our fault, so we rise above. And that is kind of like this core message where it's like, a lot of this stuff that we have is in no way, shape, or form our fault. But it is 100% our responsibility to find a way through it. Otherwise, you will stay exactly where you are, and it's up to you to decide if you want to stay. And you know, now. Should I stay or should I go, bro? Fuck this shit. I'm ready to grow.
I'm sorry, but I could just add that comment in a fucking gay ass Prius. Oh god, that was.
Hey,
I'm keeping that in my personal folder.
Throw it on the soundboard. Have you ever driven a Ford F-250? Of course you haven't. You got that Ford F-150, so you could drive around the city with affordable gas mileage. You still putting ethanol in your tank, you fucking liberal. No, so I was at a liquor store last night. I am sober, but we were stopping to get a gift we went to one of my producer friends, her brother-in-law's 40th birthday. And she's like, I think I'm going to get a bottle of wine. Or like, what do I get someone on their 40th birthday? I'm like, get them a 40 ounce. Like, it's hilarious. It's so simple and hilarious. And turns out in California, you can only sell up to 32 for a bottle of beer.
Okay.
So we went to multiple liquor stores. And then at like the fourth one we went to, we're like, hey, is there like anywhere that sells 40s? And they're like, not in the state of California. I'm like, what the fuck? And being from Louisiana, there's like no liquor laws really.
Shit, down here in Georgia, they can't do shit on Sunday. Sucks.
Oh yeah, Texas too. Texas is like that too.
Okay.
But we're at the liquor store, and I say, like, the dude's telling us this as we're just buying a 32 ounce, and we scratched it out with a Sharpie and wrote 40 on it.
That's a good one.
And he's telling the law, and there's this dude behind me who was definitely like mean mugging me a little bit, like giving me that I don't like it's typically like I found you pretty for a second, and then I saw masculine features, or I heard your voice, and now I'm mad at you for me like, you know, that's typically what it is, the glare that I get. Or they just recognize me as trans right away, and they just, you know, whatever. But I could feel that dude was like kind of like giving me a little eye. And I said, as the dude's, it was just the perfect timing. As the dude's like, yeah, like it's a California law, you know, blah, 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 blah. It used to not be like that. I'm like, yeah, all these fucking liberals, right? The dude's face, like behind me, he was like, oh, dude, it's so fucking funny. I love just messing with people. I love messing with people because I am incredibly, incredibly leftist. Like, it's so fucking funny.
Oh.
I stopped by the store to get something, and then there's like 4 heavyset guys, about 6'4", all black. 4 of them are drunk out of the 5 of them, and they're picking up some alcohol from like Kroger or something.
Yeah, yeah.
And they're like, "Can you the party or something?" They look at me. I'm wearing a red Superman shirt. They look at me and go, "Superman, thank you for your service." And I'm like, I'm not gonna tell them I'm not really Superman. I cannot do that. I was like, "You're welcome," and I just kept walking. And I'm like,
you shouldn't. Did you do like the hands on the hip?
I should have, but I walked away and I was like, "What just happened?" But what is your favorite instrument in your collection?
My favorite instrument in my collection, besides my voice, would probably be this Fender that I got. I need to get it a good setup, but it's a custom Strat, American made with the Seymour Duncan pickups in the yeah, no, it's a good Strat. A lot of the guitar that you've heard in my songs has come from that guitar.
Okay. Hey, was that guitar used in the song Solo Date?
No, so actually I think Rain did track, cuz Rain produced Solo Date and Love. And I think she used a Fender. I can't remember if she used this one or her Telecaster.
Oh, okay.
Or both. She's a tone chaser, so she's constantly like doing, you know, all sorts of different stuff. But no, so Solo Date and I love that song.
We were doing research on you, so we we found you from TikTok with the Riz Mess. Was it Riz Mess?
Yeah.
Yeah, Tism Riz, and we were like,
yeah.
And Kyle had found your email, and I was like, dude, let's do this. But Solo Date was one of my favorite ones. I was like, Solo Date? Like, I'm sitting here, we're sitting here writing questions.
Rain.
Really?
That's all Rain Stern. Dude, Rain Stern is incredible. So she's my roommate. She's my best friend. So we were originally working on an EP because Love did so well. Basically, I came to Rain with this idea for Love. I'm like, here's the hook idea, and here's kind of like how I want the bass, you know, to be just like that boom, bam, boom, bam, and then she added that doom, doom, doom. Like she added all of her like extra stuff to it. But I said, here's kind of how I want the drums to be. I like programmed some like basic ones, and then she went and tightened them up and, you know, did her whole thing. And then when she put her verse on it, it was like the second because she rewrote it. When she was showing me the rewrite, and she said, "I got that Tism Riz on my unmedicated antidote." I was like, as soon as I heard that, I'm like, number one, that's fire. Number two, TikTok's gonna go I knew as soon as I fucking heard it. I'm like, TikTok's gonna go crazy with it. So once the song was out and once I started like fucking with the sounds, it was the first thing I did. The first thing I did was made a video like I'm beating these allegations. Everybody says all I do is make like crazy screaming music, then explain this. She put a limit on my love, and like that video did pretty well. And then I'm like, okay, now it's time to make the Tism Riz shit. The first one I made did 1.8 million, and then I made two more. It's the one where like I turn from behind the chair. It was something about like me not being able to discern romantic and platonic feelings. And
okay, yeah, that's the one Kyle saw. Yeah, I saw the second one.
There's so many of them. There's like 6,000-7,000 of those videos, and that shit took the fuck off. And I made like 2 more, and then I show Rain like she's home the next day, and I'm like, dude, look. And she's like, I'm like, that's you, bro. Like, because we've been trying to crack the code for Rain because she is one of the craziest artists like on the planet. Like, she's so good. And she plays everything. She produces everything. She's a crazy shredder, amazing singer, amazing writer, very insightful like director, super just like good friend, and just amazing person in general. And we had been trying, as we started living together, trying to figure out like how do we get the algo to fucking pick up? Like how do we get, the lesbians at TikTok to go crazy over her and shit? And that was, one of the big things, and we haven't been able to really crack it since. Besides I don't know if you saw like the cooking videos we were making, where she's like singing like a song. She's singing like a popular song, and I'm in the back doing like. So the first one she did, she was doing Bohemian Rhapsody. She's like, "Mama," and I'm like, "Hey, ma."
No, I didn't.
Like these.
I didn't see those.
That shit's hilarious. So we've made like a dozen of those, and I'm just in the background doing like a thick New York accent, just like ad libs of like popular songs. And what we're gonna try to do is try to figure out a way to like start working her songs into it.
Mm-hmm.
But either way, like it was one of those things where like it was a beautiful time, and then so we start like, okay, well, let's focus on an EP because obviously people like us together. And since Rain started producing it, it started being a lot more on her spectrum, which while her and I have a very, if not identical message, like our core message is so similar, but our sound is very different. She is very like pop rock. She is very like pop, funk, alt pop. Like it's its own thing, but it is not grimy alternative rap.
Mm-hmm.
And even though I experiment with everything and anything, that is very much like something that when that song came out, I was like, yeah, I could tell the fans like it. I know this is an incredible song. The song could chart if we knew people that could make that happen, because that's the only reason things actually chart. There's no real meritocracy. It was something where it's like I had some talks with some of my like rap people, and they're like, bro, like that's a good song, but I'm gonna tell you, if you're trying to grow with these other people and they hear that shit, they're not gonna call you back. And it's not because it's not a good song. It's because it doesn't sound like the other shit you make. So, for now, I think you should be focused a lot more in on your branding because you've experimented a lot. And so it's kind of, this goes back to your first question. I will continue to experiment however the fuck I want it. But for now, I am trying to like be a little bit more focused and shit in terms of like how my shit sounds and what my visuals look like and all that stuff. But man, Solo Date's a great song. Rain pushed me a lot as a writer on that. Like I wrote a couple of different verses, and it was one of those situations where I was doing, a lot of rappers do this, is they flounder or waffle. They kind of just like get lost in chasing the rhyme and the flow and can lose the message, or they can be redundant. And when you have a 16-bar verse in a pop song, you have to be like, someone who's barely listening should understand what the song is about. And
Right.
that's something that, as a more artistic hip hop artist, I'm like, no, well, I mean, like, if you actually listen and you read my lyrics, then blah, 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 blah. Most people are not fucking doing that shit. Most people are not doing that shit.
You're not
so
wrong.
it pushed me as an artist for that verse, for me to really like cut out the fluff and make every line as meaty as possible and as memorable as possible. And that was a really powerful exercise. So I'm very grateful for making that song. I'm very grateful for everything Rain Stern has done, and y'all should definitely check her music out. It's really fucking good.
Yeah, that one was my top favorite, and another one of yours was from 2 years ago. Oh my goodness, it's the number. It's a music video with Little Broccoli.
Fucking boobies.
It's like
that's what it's called. 531-8008.
Yeah. Oh,
it's
man, I didn't pick up on that.
On a calculator. It's boobies on a calculator. Yeah.
I like how I grew up in the early 2000s. I didn't pick up on that. I was like, it's kind of.
Bennett.
Yeah.
I like booties ass brown.
Yeah, see that open line.
It's a fun ass song. It's very fun.
Oh no! Listen, that song.
funny.
I was when I was going through your music catalog, I left my door open and I'm blasting my TV, my speakers through my TV. So like I'm clicking that song, and I just hear I like big round boobies. My wife's like, "What are you doing at 11 o'clock at night?" I said, "Research, I swear." But listen to this song though, and she's like, "Okay, this is kind of dope." I said, "I know."
So that was an example. So that's an example of like my super early writing. I had been actively rapping for like 6-7 months when I wrote that. Like, I have no idea what I'm doing. I just knew that I could flow. Like, that was pretty much it. And that's a perfect example of me like not really talking about nothing. And I half cringe at a lot of my earlier music just because like I see it's more like out of compassion for myself and noticing like, you know, it's important to just recognize the growth and have compassion for me being more of the artist that I want, that I aim to be now, as opposed to like, you know, me not understanding what to do, but still doing and still executing despite not knowing everything and not having all the pieces in place. So I'm glad that you like that song for sure.
Yeah. That was a really good one. That was, I said both those, Solo Date and that one's in my save playlist for Spotify. And there was another one, he just came out
what
this
about
year.
Like Vault or
Vault,
Prison or
Vault was another good one. Vault one was really good. Vault was the first one I watched. I actually got a question about the music video for Vault.
Genocide. Grave was my top third.
I'm glad you like Grave. Grave is fun. That was one of my first like big songs that I was like, this feels more like I'm learning my brand. Like that was a song where I was like Double Take felt like that, Prison felt like that, Grave felt like that. I was like, I feel like I'm starting to actually catch a stride and understand like what my artistic identity is. It's taking these powerful emotions and showing you how powerful, propelling forward they can actually be. They don't have to be like like now I'm like a deer in headlights, somebody please respect my pronouns. There's like a different attitude we can have towards it, and it's in many ways easy for me to say. A lot of people don't have supportive families, a lot of people don't have all, you know, various things, and there's all sorts of different conditions that leads to all sorts of different mental states, but ultimately speaking, you are either going to drive through them or you're not. And that's kind of what I want to be able to leverage, whatever privilege I do have in that space, to not necessarily be like, why don't you just do this, but more just be like, hey, take from this what you want. If there's a specific line in Double Take or a specific line in Grave that makes you like think about yourself and the way you approach your queerness and the way you present yourself and the way you take other people's shit differently, that's powerful, because that can impact every little way that you live your life. And that's what hip hop is. It's speaking truth to power, and it's the most motivating, inspiring genre. Like, it's so powerful. Like, so many people's lives have been vastly changed, myself included, by the words of our favorite rappers. Like, whether we are the same as them or not, like, it's powerful as fuck. That mic
Yeah.
is a weapon. Kind of
Fear
the
and power.
politics behind, fear and power.
Yep.
And so when we think about things like homophobia, when we think about things like systemic racism, patriarchy, classism, all of these things, when we look at it through the lens of, there are those who are actively, consciously seeking to evolve their behavior and recognize and then reject what doesn't make sense according to our consciousness, as opposed to, and we can recognize that this is a biological fear response. So income inequality is a biological fear response. It comes from this idea that I cannot trust the community to take care of me. Therefore, I must gather as much resources as I can. That is the kind of baseline of the dog-eat-dog world of the free market and capitalism. Is the community is unreliable. We are all at each other's throats. And the only thing keeping us from killing each other is kind of this like very loose social contract. And there's a lot of reality backing that because it's real. Whether we philosophically agree with it or not, it's real. And to transphobes, whether or not you agree with the existence of trans people, we still exist. And kind of like Neil deGrasse Tyson said something. He's like, regardless of what you understand about biology, the fact that they're out there in the world living life should be, as a scientist, fascinating enough for you to study it, as opposed to sit here and like pick it apart and reject it. Like your integrity as a scientist is weird, because you would think that even if the data conflicts, especially because the data conflicts it, if we can observe it in the real world, that means we need to understand it more. In that same way, when we look at all of the inequality and the systemic bullshit that is preventing us from simply living life and focusing on higher truths, exploring morality, and entering like a new golden age in the same way that we did once we discovered agriculture and building cities, where is that next step? A lot of the politics and bullshit that we've been dealing with over the past 1,000 years, 500 years, 400 years, even the last 100 years, has been us being unable as a unit to reconcile our biological fear imperatives versus what we understand individually as a higher truth. And then there's its own, in the higher truth sphere, then there's like a difference in ideology. There's all the different religions, there's all the different moral codes, there's the different laws, the borders, all that sort of shit. That's its own problem. And that is kind of what complicates the situation, because you can't just be like, oh, it's as simple as resisting your urge to murder somebody. It's more like, well, according to what God? According to what blank? And then when you see the circular thing, that the actual question of says who can also be driven by fear. Because if my God isn't right and it's someone else's, then what happens to me? I don't know. I have a bad relationship with uncertainty. That causes fear, and it triggers my biology, which overpowers my higher thinking, my prefrontal cortex. Like it is really tricky, and some people, like myself included, have spent a large part of their lives beating themselves up for not being able to resist their biology. Like my entire existence as a trans woman has been a struggle of me resisting who I am, and like the physical uncomfortability of testosterone running through my body between the ages of 11 and 24 has, will have lifelong impacts on me, between the conditioning I received being socialized male, between everything that's happened to my physical body that cannot be undone no matter how many surgeries or hormones I take. And when people talk about irreversible damage, I'm like, puberty is irreversible damage. So, if a kid is questioning and they're unsure, and they really are, then, and a doctor and multiple people all agree, then, like, that's why I think I'm very against, like, hormones pre-18, but I am very pro-puberty blocker, because those, all you do is simply stop taking them and then you go through puberty. But when we think about the way that we've beaten ourselves up for not being able to resist our biology, it is, it's kind of nonsensical. And it serves a narrative that, like, we are morally responsible for all of these things. Like, I think about it, this is a weird pivot and analogy, but, like, my dog. I do not spend nearly enough time training my dog. And even if I were, even the process of training my dog is something where, like, she has her own biological imperatives and she has her own wants and needs. She doesn't possess the language and the ability to communicate with me in the same way that we do. So I have to, number one, learn her body language and understand, how do I recognize when she's anxious? How do I recognize when she's hungry? All these sorts of things. Like, how do I recognize how she expresses what she needs from me? And then, like, when I'm walking her and being, if I get aggravated because she, like, sees a cat and she's like, that's not, like, that is not she's not doing that to me. And it sounds silly to say out loud, but our emotions are like, Jenny, don't do that to me.
Yeah.
Why? Like, but then when we logically think about it, like, our brains and our hearts are not connected. They're not nearly as connected as we like to think they are. And whether I'm yapping or actually making some good points is its own thing.
No, you're
like,
making some good points. I was
No, you
laughing.
did.
I was laughing because the other day, we have two dogs, and they're both in here in the room with me, and one of them talks about squirrel. Wait, where's the other one? Uh-oh. One's disappeared. But one likes to chase rabbits. And so you said squirrel. It made me think of the rabbit chase he had the other day. And
Squirrel.
I'm like, yeah, he said rabbit, and he nearly snapped my wrist. I'm surprised you can't hear Lily snoring.
There was one time we were recording, and all of a sudden, I just hear snoring, and I'm like, what is that noise? And it's the dog.
Yeah, my dog snores pretty well. I'm glad I have this this SM7B. It doesn't really pick up anything outside of, like, this little area.
Okay. Yeah, I'm using a Q2U Swanson. It's like one of the cheaper mics. It's pretty good. It's pretty good quality for a cheap mic. But if I set it on my table and our dog Lily's right next to me and she's snoring, it'll pick her up. And I was like, golly, that's pretty good.
I'm using 3-year-old Raycons.
Yeah, your Raycons.
Yeah, they ain't doing the right.
The standard I got a set up at home starter pack, which was the Focusrite Scarlett Solo 2nd Gen and the Audio-Technica AT2020 and a little pop filter, and that's what I did everything through the Double Take Remix, Genocide and Trash. That's when I started, like, recording on Rain's Neumann. And now almost everything I do is, like, in a studio, like, at this point, like, everything you see. But I did get this so that I could stream more and that I could, my demos come out a lot better. And I just, I had a little extra money from music, and I'm like, I want some good shit. I got a good cable. I got this cool arm, and it's just, I still have a Focusrite. I don't have a Apollo Twin just yet. But, I'm excited for y'all to hear my newer music, because it's coming out really crisp. I'm recording on some really dope equipment lately with my friends, and
I,
I'm so
I got a
it's
mic
so
at home
cool.
that I gotta use, and I just need a couple cords to like pair it up with my computer, and
Yeah.
then I'm hoping my sound quality will be a lot better. But on the road, when we're having to do it like on the fly, I've been using headphones. I had a really good pair, and then I lost them. So now I'm using my old backup pair that's 3 year old. They're running on prayers and wait and hope, and somehow they're working.
It's all
I'm
right
gonna
with the.
drop. Are y'all Spotify listeners?
Yes.
Yes,
Okay,
we
I'm dropping
actually.
some playlists for y'all
Hmm.
that are kind of like there's a bunch of my music in there too, but these are like really cool. I think y'all will fuck with these. The first one is very much like it's a lot more of the harder shit, and then you have like a mix of like chill and hard shit, and the last playlist is very chill, but these are really cool. Highly recommend all of these. Great way to like find some new artists that are all
Okay.
kind of. This is like a lot of the stuff that inspires me. So
Nice. Yeah, no, we're both big on what's the word I'm looking for? I don't know. Your style of music, it for me, it was different. And that's why I was curious about when you said that your music is your music. I was like, there's a lot of different genders in here, or genres, not genres in here.
yeah,
And I was
both.
curious,
That
and
too.
I was just yeah, and I was just curious with it, and I was like, that makes sense. That's what I'm getting my taste in now. As I'm getting older, I'm
And
like,
then
I like a little bit of
this
everything.
this last one is play that one with your wife. That's the R&B. That's a good playlist.
Lord, oh yeah, R&B. Lord, in that house, I'd have to play like screamo or something. Listen, my wife's the type of wife. If we're
Shit.
driving I-75, she'll be like turning on her playlist, and it's like pure screamo. She'll be like doing the like soft rock ballad, and all of a sudden she'll just breathe in, and I'm like, oh yeah,
Yeah.
and like she'll do it. I'm like, oh god,
It's
and we're gonna.
funny. It's funny because that just reminded me. Me and my friend are gonna do a trap metal remix of Nasty Girl,
Hmm.
Uh,
and it's like I'm gonna make it like you guys know all about like book talk, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I'm gonna make it in such a way where like it's going to catch on book talk. Like I've been a nasty girl, nasty. Like
I can already hear it in my
smash my
head.
freak. It's just
Um,
like big crazy bass, like "Poof, somebody gonna mash my freak. It's gonna be awesome. It's gonna be awesome.
oh gosh, oh man, what number are we on? I
number
lost
4.
track. Huh, Kyle?
Number 4.
Oh man, damage. What is your favorite drink? What is your go-to drink? Non-alcoholic.
Non-alcoholic.
Oh.
I will give my favorite, like my go-to alcoholic drink, when I was drinking, and if I ever return to substances again. It is. I am gonna get poke. I'm gonna DoorDash and poke after this question. It would be so. Actually, I bartended my way through college, and sold weed. Allegedly. Actually, I pled guilty and got it dismissed. So fuck it. But I love effervescent gin drinks. So, like grapefruit, fresh grapefruit juice, gin, muddled cucumber, Saint Germain, and a little bit of lemon, like 0.25 a lemon. Shaken, strained over ice, or not even over ice, in a chilled like coupe glass with a fresh sprig of rosemary and like some honey. It's a really good drink. That was one of my favorite ways. I would actually flirt with girls that I would be like, I'm like, oh, I'm at work, but like I'll be closing soon. You can like come by the bar and I'll make you a drink, and like I make her a drink and like figure out, and then you get to see me like be a bartender, and there's like a safe physical barrier between us, so we get to talk and just suss out the vibe, and if it's cool, it's cool. If not, then it's not. I never give her more than one drink. And then we decide like, hey, like you want to go, like let's go actually like get some food, or no, it was nice talking to you, I hope you have a good one. Like either way. Um, but I would always make like some good cocktails and then go like rizz up my other bar patrons, and they'd just be like, "Oh my god!" But my favorite drink, I drink a lot of water. But I really like horchata. I love a good horchata. I'm a slut for taco stands out here. Like I do all the taco places, and a spicy taco with a sweet horchata.
Oh man. Oh, I had Mexican last night. I'm the same way. I love me like a good authentic taco.
Yeah,
Mm.
yeah.
I love me a burrito.
Burritos are good. I like a birria. I like a good birria. You dunk it in the fucking consomme, and it's got all
Hmm.
the onions and cilantro on it.
Oh
Oh, it's
yeah.
so good.
I'm hit or miss on onions. Sometimes I want onions on it. Sometimes I don't. I'm hit or miss.
Mm. I like me my go-to is tofu burrito. If I have a choice of
Mm.
meat, I'll typically try to go tofu. Not every place does it. But when it's done, it's just right.
Oh man.
No,
Golly, I'm getting hungry already. We keep talking about food and beer and mixed cocktails. I'm
about
gonna be
that time.
sitting there. I know. Oh, I got all them Smirnoff ices in my fridge. Those red, white, and blue Smirnoff ices. Got like 8 more of them to
Oh, I've
drink.
got a bunch of White Claws. Christina's coming up for the wedding.
Uh,
She's like, we should go drinking together. We should go drinking together. And I'm like, I got you.
I'm waiting her to come.
But
I'm waiting for her to come down to South Georgia and the Bible Belt, and we can hit all those bars together.
she wants to with you, which I think is going to be interesting.
Oh, I'm taking her to the honky tonk town. She, she's gonna see this. She's gonna be square dancing. It's gonna be great.
Go where?
Oh,
The
dude,
honky tonk.
one of the honky tonks, man. I call it the honky tonk bar in this town. It's like got a big old dance area, and his
Yeah,
girlfriend's
yeah.
like very musically inclined. So I'm like,
Listen,
oh, go
me
ahead,
and my
guy.
girlfriend are both like grew up Southern Baptist. Well, that's not true.
Mm.
She's Pentecostal. She grew up Pentecostal. We're both deconstructing and so she tried alcohol. And she's like, we should drink together. And I'm like, I know how you're going to get when you get drunk. And she goes, you don't know. I've never get drunk. I'm like, I know. But I've seen how you are when you get tipsy. So,
Uh,
Kevin, are you ready
uh,
to segue back?
yep. Sorry, you just all the talks of tacos and beer. I'm like, man, taco and beer don't sound that bad right now.
Yeah,
Hey.
that's for after the interview.
Yeah, for real. Go ahead, Kyle. Next question.
What is your favorite person you've collabed with so far?
Uh, Changeling.
Yeah.
I love working with her. Uh, I also love working with Rain, and then it was really fun to work with Gal the Arsonist. I do want to work with him more. But he's his own thing. He's very reclusive, and he does his own thing. Um, very proud to keep watching everybody grow. But Changeling for sure. Um, it's been really interesting to get to know her. On a personal level, we've become very close friends. Um, and I feel like we have different, like very different, but very complementary styles. And that's why we're co-headlining a tour together.
Okay.
Second parter on this. What are some people you would like to collab
Hmm. I would like to collab with. Shit, I got a fucking list. Um, I would like to collab with Jev, Jev. I would like to collab with Oblate Reed. I would like to collab with Dom Valley, um, Black Sam, Buffalo Farm. Me and Buffalo Farm have been like missing each other on a few different stuff, but like I do want him to collab. Um, Group Therapy. Group Therapy is big on my list. I would really like to collab with them.
Okay.
All those people are in those playlists that I sent you. Oh, Chris Patrick too. Love Chris Patrick.
Okay.
What is a lyric or line do you feel has gone the hardest?
A lyric or a line that I feel has gone hardest. Man, there's a lot. There's a lot. I'm just trying to think of like what really pops out to me, cause like so many of my lines are hard like that. Some of them are really simple. Like, oh, it's tough to pick the hardest. God damn it. In my upcoming song Boom, I have a song that goes, I'm going to give you multiple that I really like on kind of some of my newer stuff. On my upcoming song Boom, I have a line that says, I got collapsible stocks, the pillars of ivory tower, behind the iron veil lies a coward.
Ooh, that's actually pretty good.
So you got like, you know, collapsible stock on a gun. You have like the stock market, which is collapsible. The pillar of ivory tower, behind the iron veil lies a coward. And damn, like almost all of Run, which is the intro to the Eat the Rich EP. It's so fucking good. Suffrage really subjects in disguise. Objective ain't collective. Bitch, I'll pry your fucking eyes out your skull for a tiny little crumb. Oh, there's so many fucking good ones. Oh, actually, towards the end of Run, there's a really good one, and it's simple. But it's like, especially like with the, like, it's one of the last things you hear after all this stuff. And I say, the dog was with the come get you an accomplice with a compass, shot accomplish you with abundance and a boss stand. I would do like the whole verse before I was like, you stand with you stand with boss stand with lock stand, drop stock stand, pop polish in the pocket, flashbang with paparazzi. There's only one way I was the hockey, this watch me. Yeah. It's like the outro is like, do I have all your attention now? You can't escape us. We got you surround, dead on arrival. Hit avatar state, watch the cycle expire.
Ooh.
Which I really like that line. I really like that line. Hit avatar state, watch this. Because in Avatar, the cycle expires if you get killed in the avatar state, but I enter the avatar state to end. Oh, it's so good. It's so simple, but it's like, ugh. It's hard because, like, anybody who's ever watched Avatar will get exactly what it means. So sometimes, like, I feel like some of the hardest lines are not the most complicated. They're rarely the most complicated. But there's another one in the last verse of Run where I say, you guys know what the Aki way is, right?
I do not.
No, I don't.
So in New York, certain New York delis, there's, you know what a chopped cheese is?
Nope.
It's like, picture like a burger po' boy. Like, it's New York's version of that.
Okay. Like that.
It's like a
hamburger.
mix of like a burger po' boy, but like Philly cheesesteak style, but like New York deli. It's its own thing. A chopped cheese is its own thing. You can get at certain famous delis, and this was made popular on TikTok. You can get your chopped cheese the Aki way, which just has like a bunch of like fucking shit on it. Like, it's just a bunch of crazy shit. And so it became kind of like an internet thing. Finally needed to order that DoorDash like 10 minutes ago. It's just been sitting on my phone. And I'm saying all this because, like, to explain why this line is as hard as it is. But people are like, oh, it's like, if you come to New York, it's the only way to, you gotta get a chopped cheese the Aki way. Like, it's the only way to get it. It's your only option. And so, I go popping politicians in the pockets, flashbang like a paparazzi. There's only one way. Watch me hit the hockey with the obvious. Watch me be populist, destiny, communist. Peace be achieved when we touring our conscious complex machina blau. Like,
okay, that makes sense. Neither one of us have never been to New York. So I'm just we're
but
just
like,
both like, oh, what?
a few of my New York rapper friends heard that song. They're like, "Did you just use the Aki way to dude, like it's silly, but it's like it's hard as fuck. Watch me hit the Aki with the obvious. Watch me be populist, destiny, communist." Yeah, it's just crazy.
Yeah, the Aki Way is a deli in Brooklyn, and they have a TikTok.
Is it really just one deli? I thought it was like, but you can ask multiple places.
This place is called the Aki Way, so I'm guessing there's multiple.
You can ask like a lot. Like there's a lot of different delis that you can ask them to do a chopped cheese the Aki Way.
Yeah, they've got a bunch. Their entire TikTok is just Aki chopped cheese. No, wait, bacon, egg, and cheese. Salmon chops, Fat Boy.
But yeah, so that is like it's. There's some really like crazy references I make in some of my songs.
Red Velvet chopped cheese.
Oh, this is one more that I'll say, and this is from I just recorded this last night. So I have the Eat the Rich EP is gonna be Run, Boom, Spread It Open, which I just recorded last night, Bum, and then Billy and Belly, and then a remix of Boom that has like 10 fucking verses on it. Like there's a lot of features. Spread It Open is a song about it's a sexually toned song satirically embodying the capitalistic pressure to constantly be more productive and add more things to your plate, even including something like this podcast of you reaching out. And I'm like, the time technically exists. I ought to do it. Not necessarily because I'm like dying to be on the random hour, but because I recognize that it's an opportunity, and there's this voice in my head that's like, don't say no. Like anything and so in the line, and so the chorus is kind of like, satirically kind of talking about that, and it's embodying that voice and kind of giving it this sexy tone. And I have a line in the second verse that says, it opens with, hold up, let me show y'all how to work. Embarrass grown-ass men on their home fucking turf, bitch, I feel great. I'm just playing, motherfucker. I feel like crepe. I'm spread too thin. I get the... And it's just like the way that I said, I feel great. I'm just playing, motherfucker. I feel like crepe. I'm spread too thin. I get it's... that song is fantastic. I'm really excited for this EP to drop. It'll be in September when I hit the road. So Billy and Belly comes out on the 28th of this month, June 28th, and then Boom is going to come out 4 weeks after that. So that'll be.
So do you want to ask the question now or ask it later?
We'll ask it later. I know what question you're thinking about. We'll talk about it when we get done recording.
July 26th, I'll drop Boom, and then September, we'll do August 30th, we'll drop the EP, and then hit the road.
Okay.
Eat the Rich EP.
So my next question for you is, out of all your tattoos, which one is the most meaningful one?
Most meaningful one is actually, it's the same concept of where I get my artist name from. So have you guys watched BoJack Horseman?
Yes.
Kyle has. So, I've barely watched it.
So have you watched the whole thing?
Yes. And so your tattoos from the last episode, right?
One of the last episodes. It says good damage with the good scratched out. So that I had hit rock bottom, like emotionally, identity crisis wise, like very early 2020. It's its own very long story, but that episode put a lot of things into perspective for me. And when Diane posed the question, like, if that if I could have just decided arbitrarily to be happy and move on, then what did I spend all that time being miserable for? And that kind of like both broke me it broke me in the way that was needed for me to start like working and rebuilding. And this concept of it's not good damage, there isn't like, it's not going to all of a sudden mean something magically in the exact way that I want it to. It's simply just damage. It's just life. It's just what has happened to me, and I have to decide every single day what I'm going to do with that day. And that's kind of what I took away from that episode, and it made me realize like I'm not just gonna, it's not just gonna randomly happen. I can't walk around with this chip on my shoulder like I'm some undiscovered artist if I'm not making any art. And so from that moment, I wasn't like, oh, it's my destiny to go be, you know, what I currently am today. It was like, I simply need to start living in a way that aligns with how I see myself internally, and understanding little by little, what does that actually mean? So if I feel like a frustrated creative, the first thing I should do, logically speaking, is create. Because if I don't create and I just consume, then I have this whole, like, you know, chip on my shoulder. And you'll meet a lot of people, you probably have met and will meet a lot of people in your life who, you know, are big haters and they're so judgmental and they have an opinion about fucking everything. And you can feel deep down, it's like, you have a lot of political opinions. Have you ever considered running for office? And not in a condescending way, but it's like, bro, like, you're clearly passionate about it. Why don't you go get involved? Oh, well, you know, it's all blah, 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 blah. People will make whatever excuse they want to make. Yeah. Oh, bro, like, you can't stop talking about Drake. Like, this was like, I was a big Drake hater. I was a big, like, I hate all these fucking, like, oh, and this is what's wrong with this, and this is what's wrong with that. Oh, do you make music of your own? Well, no. And, you know, whether or not you're able to make a career out of it is a completely separate concept. But if you have a creative spirit and you do not create, you will suffer for the entirety of your life. And that doesn't mean you have to make a living off your art. It doesn't mean anything other than, if you identify as a creative and you do not create, your soul is deprived of what it craves. If you are like the vast majority of people, 99.9999% of people, your soul craves spiritual connection in whatever way makes sense for you. If you wallow around as an atheist with no community, you will suffer unnecessarily from that. Me, as somebody who identifies with a lot of Buddhist principles, I have been, up until a very, very short time, suffering immensely because I did not have a church. I did not have a group of people that I get to meet up with and connect with. And that's what my sobriety group is it's a Buddhist-based recovery group. And simply engaging in these practices puts you on the right path, and then you just have to trust that the universe will show you what's up. And that is kind of what happened with this tattoo. So it's my most meaningful tattoo. And then my artist name came from it too. So
what is your go-to?
My go-to snack?
Mm-hmm.
How can I turn this into a 10-minute philosophical ramble? I love Doritos. I have like unhealthy snacks. I love Doritos. But I also have recently acquired an affinity for sliced cucumbers with like any sort of spicy hummus.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my god, it's so good. It's so good. Like, there was like a Thai chili garlic hummus that I had with these like sliced cucumbers. Oh, and especially when they're like nice and crisp. Holy fuck, so good. Or, Doritos and guacamole. I don't fucking know.
Wait, what's a good combination of Doritos with guac?
Mm, I do like honestly red or blue.
Hmm?
I could do either. I've done either. I
I
will say red over blue because there's more of that. It fits the flavor profile more. Cool
Mhm.
Ranch Doritos are more of like a sandwich chip in my opinion.
Ooh,
This
If
is
that's
I'm
true.
good.
having like a if I'm having like a
Um,
club sandwich or a cold cut or something, I want the Cool Ranch Doritos.
what about? Have you tried the other flavors of Doritos? Because I know they've got some others that I think
Thai
would pair
chilies are
well.
good. The
Hmm.
spicy nacho is good. I think I've had the salsa verde one, which was pretty good.
Yes,
I haven't had a lot of different flavors, but
I've had I had the salsa verde or just verde as they're called. I went to South America and I had some. And then they've got the Baja Fiery mango one. And I haven't tried that one yet. I have to make it. I like talking about food.
oh
Yeah.
yeah, food is fucking delicious. Do you guys watch Maddie Matheson
I do
on
not.
TikTok?
Nope.
He is really really funny. He just does a bunch of cooking content. He swears like crazy. He makes some good fucking shit. Never trust a skinny chef.
Never trust
That boy's
skinny
got that boy got some meat on his bones, and you see why. He makes some good fucking shit. He made a shrimp jerk po' boy today that I saw on TikTok. That shit looked crazy.
Nice. But all right, that pretty much damage. That's pretty much all our questions. Where can the good folks find you at home?
You can find me anywhere. DAMAG3. Just fucking Google me. Type it into TikTok. Type it into whatever. I've made enough of a storm. Come and find me. I prefer streaming services.
Mhm. Okay.
Okay.
That's all the questions we have. So, Devin, where can
Fuck
they
yeah.
find us?
Well, guys, if you enjoyed what you heard today, you can always come check me out on my sports podcast, the More Sports Podcast, where it's a sports podcast for everyone. You never know what we're going to do over there. And as always, we have our movie review podcast, Popcorn Buckets, where we just sit down and review a movie every Sunday. And you can also subscribe to our... Yeah, Woo and Kyle with his 50 fun facts. Next month, the Pirates of the Caribbean episodes come out. Oh, boy. And then you can also go subscribe to our YouTube channel, Random Incorporate, where you can see the video version of this interview as well as one of other bands we've done this year. And you can follow us
What?
on social media. Huh?
What's another band we did this year?
Oh, yeah, we did Felicity.
You went
Yeah.
and then just kept dogging,
Yep.
and I was like, "What?"
Dude, I've said this outro so many times.
We did Rat Bath, Felicity. Those are the only two bands we were working on a slasher band.
Oh, yeah, that's right. They're not out. We're working on that. But yeah, anyways, check out all that on our YouTube channel, Random Corporate, and you can follow us on Twitter at Rando Corporate One and on Instagram as Rando Boys. Damage, you got any last words?
Billy and Belly, June 28th. Get ready to eat the rich. Follow me, you fucking queers.